See, Nintendo, I'm playing ball. Don't emulate their products or mod them. Instead, buy Abomi Nation.
Babu's Game Room.
Hi everyone, Chris from Babu's Game Room here. If you're wondering where I've been, I've got a pinned comment for you. I'm here today because I had an amazing opportunity to interview the developer of a Monster Tamer, a Pokemon-like game that I have put literally 100 plus hours into. It's awesome. Basically, imagine a Pokemon game that's balanced around Nuzlocks. Now, the dev has an already funded Kickstarter running for a couple more days to help fund a sequel. I've got links in the description if you want more info on some available goodies, but in addition to the existing few hundred monsters or Abomis in the original game, the sequel will feature crossovers from genre-spanning games, primarily indie games, things like Bug Fables, Monster Sanctuary, Fate Tactics, Bug Snacks, and it'll even have a monster creator so that players can create their own monsters or Abomis and put them into the game. So now that you know why a Pokemon nerd like me is talking about Abomi Nation, let's get on with the interview.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carl Pilon. I am the solo developer of Abomi Nation and now Abomi Nation Monster Riffs.
You mentioned that you're a solo developer, and that's amazing. Can you tell us about what is Orange Pylon Games? And is that how it's pronounced? Is it Pylon or Pilon?
Yeah, so my last name is Pilon, Pilon en français.
Pilon.
But nobody can pronounce it properly in English. They usually say Pylon, and so that's stuck for the as a nickname, I guess, as a kid. So for as long as I can remember, my creations have been labeled under Orange Pylon Productions or Orange Pylon Games.
Ah, and so you said productions, plural. I thought Abomination was your first game. Was it your first game or first commercial game, or am I wrong?
Yeah, Abomination is my first commercial game. I used to do Flash movies and games on Newgrounds.com back in the day, for all the old heads like me might remember. I made a couple Pokemon fan games starting out. When I was 12 years old, I made a game called Wooper's Adventure that got a decent amount of attention. It's a little puzzle platformer where you play as a Wooper.
That's amazing. Is that how you got your starting game, Dev?
Yeah, sorry. I think that was my first publicly released game, as far as I can remember. And then I made like a couple movies and, well, movies, little short Pokemon fan works here and there. Some Weird Al music videos animated to Mario sprites. You know, all the Newgrounds classics.
Yeah, no, I was big on Newgrounds back in the day because young gamers, they don't understand how hard it was to get games for free.
Yeah, such a great resource.
Yeah, there was no Steam sales, no summer sales. You would go onto sites like Newgrounds and just whatever people made, it was like we were thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff on there is completely worth money. I mean, so some of the stuff is being remastered and put on Steam now, just because you can't play it online anymore after the death of Flash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what made you start with, if you did start with that Wooper's Adventure game, what made you start with Pokemon first?
I've just always been into it, you know. It's typical of a 90s kid. I went through Pokemania and it just never left my head. They latched onto me at 3 years old, and I figured I got to do something with all this useless knowledge. So I imagine you're in the same boat, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So game dev, it always felt like too intimidating for me to move towards. And at some point I was like, I'll make some videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good use of all this otherwise useless knowledge.
So Whooper's Adventure, I imagine, was kind of like a platformer or something?
Yeah, it's a puzzle platformer, but the puzzles are pretty much just get the key and go in the door.
Oh, yeah.
I was 12.
Yeah, of course. So Abomination, I imagine you started that when you were a little bit older than 12.
Yes, I was 22.
Awesome.
Oh, God, I'm 30 now. Don't...
Oh, man. No, I'm older than you.
It's just weird to think of Abomination being 8 years old in concept. Okay, it's closer to 9.
So with Abomination, it's very, very similar to Pokemon. It's a Monster Tamer. Why did you choose to make a Monster Tamer?
Kind of like what I was talking about earlier. I have this knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at Nuzlocks. I tend to know what the community wants, or at least what I would want out of a Nuzlocke-centric game. So I figured I have most of the skill set. I can learn the rest. Let's take the chance. Let's do it. I'm young.
Yeah,
At least I
awesome.
was.
So, yeah, Abomi Nation is, I describe it as it's basically a Nuzlocke that was balanced around Nuzlocks.
Exactly the idea.
Nuzlocks are sort of like a hard mode for Pokemon because Pokemon games are easy. Everyone knows that. But you do also have a lot of quality of life features that kind of the player can choose to lessen the severity of the Nuzlocke. And some might say that that sort of defeats the purpose. So what was your design philosophy here?
Well, going into Nuzlocking, there are a lot of like little inconveniences in Pokemon that I completely understand because it's not designed around Nuzlocking, but because it isn't designed around it, there are things like, for example, if you do a fight like that's in the story, something dies in it that you were leading with, and then your rival heals you up, and then you go into the next fight, then you lead with the dead thing, and it's like, well, what are you supposed to do there? And it creates these little like inconsistencies. Um, so I wanted to design Abomi Nation like with this in mind, but also with the flexibility to be like, if somebody wanted to do a more specific challenge, someone wanted to do a monotype run or like mono color run or babies only or whatever specific thing they wanted, I wanted them to be able to do it in the game. And that includes a more casual mode where permadeath is off and they just experience it as they like. Whenever you die for the first time in a permadeath run, it will ask you, do you want to revive everybody and complete the story? It'll be marked on your profile that you did it, so it's like not a real win. But if you want to keep playing, like, I would be hypocritical to play Pokemon in this self-imposed way, but then also force everyone to play Abomi Nation the way that I want. So it was more important to me that players have the freedom to play it exactly how they like.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the fans really appreciate that because for me, I'm like super hardcore and turning off all of those like nice mode settings and like auto heal. I always walk back to the camp because I'm an old school gamer, so I can put up with that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, you like the more annoying parts.
yeah, I have the tolerance for that. Almost a taste. It's like eating spicy food, like it hurts, but like I like it.
You also turn damage calculations off, right? I think you're the only one I know, at least
Really?
like prominently in the Discord, that does that. And I'm glad I left the option, because when I put it in, I was like, well, maybe some people won't like that. They'll think it's too easy or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, I guess while we're on the topic, I will jump to Pokemon. What was your first Pokemon game?
My first Pokemon game
Yeah.
was Red. I'm an old head like you.
Yep.
I know a lot of people watching and a lot of people in the Abomi Nation server might be younger than the series, so they can't start with Red.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember my first memory of Pokemon, possibly my first memory on this earth. I was just barely 3 years old, and I was at my babysitter's place, and we got to go to Blockbuster Video to rent a VHS. How many more 90s words can I say in a sentence? We went to Blockbuster Video to rent a 99-cent VHS from the kids section, and everyone who was there wanted to rent a Pokemon video. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't even remember what I wanted, but something else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was outvoted, so they brought it home, put it in the VCR, and it was the episode where Ash catches a Krabby. And at the beginning of the episode, there's a little moment where Misty says to Ash, oh, but Ash, you got all your Pokemon because they follow you or something. You haven't actually caught any. And then it flashes an image on the screen it's just like a cross section of like all of Ash's Pokemon. And it's my first time seeing all of them, and it just flashes and they all go, they all make their little noise. And my 3-year-old brain is like, was permanently like changed that day. I was just like standing back in awe, looking at all the bright colors and noises made to appeal to me to tell my parents to go buy all of them. And I'm like, well, that set my career path for life. Didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. What was your first starter?
My first starter was Charmander. Although I'm more of a Squirtle guy nowadays.
Ah.
Every kid was picking Charmander,
Yeah, even today, Charmander still seems to be the popular one.
You started with Blue?
Yeah, I started with Blue and Squirtle, so I must have been your rival.
Jealous.
I knew the Squirtle Squad was the way from the start.
My favorite starter throughout the series, I have to say, is Turtwig. I'll throw that out there.
Turtwig, that's another popular one. I always liked Piplup more, gotta say. Penguin?
Yeah. Hold on, I'm breaking up. I gotta end the call.
Do you dislike Piplup?
I mean, not by today's starter standards, but compared to Turtwig, come on, the best guy.
Fair. I do really like Torterra, the final. Is that the final one's name?
Yes.
Torterra is really cool. I love the idea for it. So, Penguin Knight, that's pretty cool too.
I'd pick it over Inteleon. I'll give you that.
Fair. These days, what is your favorite Pokemon generation?
Okay, if you include this part in the video, you have to also include my explanation. But this is supposed to sell people on potentially trying Abomi Nation out, and as soon as they hear this, they're going to run away. But my answer, unironically, I mean this sincerely, is 6.
6?
X and Y.
Wow.
Is my favorite generation.
Wow.
And that's from growing up off of Red, so it's not some kind of nostalgia. Okay, I'll explain myself because I understand why people don't like it. So, it's got a lot of problems that I'm not really overlooking, but from my perspective, the way that I love to play Pokemon is to Nuzlocke it. And the easiest game to just casually go through and Nuzlocke is X and Y. It also has, in my opinion, the most varied Pokedex. So I can play Emerald like 100 times, but every time I'm getting
same team
Wingull, right? Like I'm getting probably Shroomish, I'm getting Electrike for sure, basically guaranteed.
Yeah.
Gen 1 is even worse. You will have Pidgey and Rattata.
Too bad, yeah.
But X and Y is just we're just gonna quadruple the dex.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically all it takes. Hypothetically, my favorite Pokemon game is just an X and Y randomizer, or I guess just a modern Pokemon game randomizer with everything in it. Because I just love the variety and not knowing what you're gonna get on your team. I can still replay X and Y and end up with a team that I've never used before. Now X and Y are super easy games. True. That's just it's true. The Nuzlocke makes it harder. I tend to go through X and Y nowadays doing a baby lock where it's a Nuzlocke, but you can't evolve your Pokemon. They all stay as babies, and that offsets the challenge. I also genuinely, I know the 3D models aren't the biggest, aren't the most well-received thing in the Pokemon community, but coming off of games where the Pokemon didn't move for so long, where they were static sprites and then barely moved in black and white, I think just as a dev, the amount of effort that I know must have got into modeling all Pokemon up to that point and featuring them all, even if they weren't in the Pokedex, to get that many animations and new models, a lot of people call X and Y lazy games, but I think in comparison to what was before and after it, I think they're actually some of the most ambitious.
Yeah, and I do understand why, to me, X and Y felt sort of shallow, but I understood because that was a big leap as getting all those 3D models, and I don't even think there was a Dexit at that point, was there?
No, they were all in there, at least in the game files, so you could get them, and that's important to me, especially when I'm doing suspicious things and randomizing the game.
Yeah.
Then they're still there, at least.
Yeah, but you almost did an Abomi archive exit thing for Monster Rifts. You're considering it.
True. Well, I mean, it wouldn't have been an Abomi Nation game at that point, so I don't know if it really counts as a Dexit.
Fair. Yeah.
I was Dexiting the whole series, if that was...
Yeah.
I will say, people say X and Y's story is horrible and the characters suck, and I would say, yep, and I don't care. All Pokemon human characters are horrible and they suck, and I don't care, and I mashed the A button through all of it. Sun and Moon, I would consider good games, but oh my god, it's impossible to replay in Nuzlocke because they hold you hostage in the cutscenes for 3 hours at a time, and I'm a grown man now. I can't listen to Lily talk about the bag anymore.
Yes. Yeah. Abomi Nation is mechanically very similar to Pokemon. It does some things different, but it's super familiar to someone who's coming out of Pokemon. Mm-hmm. To what extent was this on purpose?
So when I went into Abomi Nation 1, my goal, first and foremost, was to like replicate the feeling of a Nuzlocke. Because I wanted that game to exist. I wanted a game designed around being a Nuzlocke to exist. So I stuck to the Pokemon formula pretty heavily, especially in the first game. And I remember getting a review on Abomi Nation 1 that I think put it the best, which is the review said that they played a lot of Monster Tamers that lift elements from Pokemon, but the developers don't necessarily always think about why those mechanics were in place. And Abomi Nation, to them, I'm making it clear that I'm repeating a review, so it doesn't sound like I'm building myself up. But the Abomi Nation, to them, it felt like took exactly what it needed and then innovated in the ways that it didn't need to borrow from Pokemon. So, for example, like EVs and IVs are not something that are present in Abomi Nation because I felt like that would be too cumbersome and too confusing for new players. And the reason they exist in Pokemon is for breeding purposes and for raising a team and competitive. Neither of those features exist in Abomi Nation, so there's no reason to have them. Leveling your team up altogether is my personal favorite. The number one thing that will make me quit a Nuzlocke isn't having a bunch of things die, it's having to grind a bunch of things up to replace them. That just seems so boring, and all of a sudden the game feels like work, and I'll stop. So having your team set at a level, and no matter what you want to swap out, will always be at the level you're at, is to me like the biggest time save, the biggest respect for the player's time.
Yeah.
And again, in Pokemon, I understand why things are different levels, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense for that game, but for a linear roguelike like Abomi Nation, it's only going to create grinding.
Yeah, and that's what kept me away from Nuzlocke without me really realizing it, was that I just sort of turned it into like a level grind game because I was so afraid of having anything die.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of modern Nuzlockes on YouTube will mod in rare candies now and use level caps just to save time. Oh. And I started doing that myself when I do get to replay a Nuzlocke every now and again. And it is just such a difference in time saved. Like you can actually like complete a game in a couple days instead of it being like a month long of grinding because you got crit at the wrong time.
That's a good idea, but I could also just play more Abomi Nation.
Yes, I agree. Don't listen. In fact, do not mod Nintendo products. See, Nintendo, I'm playing ball. Don't emulate their products or mod them. Instead, buy Abomi Nation.
There we go. Not buy Nintendo games, buy Abomi Nation. So aside from Pokemon, what were some major influences when you designed Abomi Nation?
So it's got a few, Pokemon being the primary one, of course. But it's also a roguelike, so I also looked to Slay the Spire a lot. Slay the Spire specifically inspired the damage calculation to be present on the screen. Because I was thinking like, oh, if you can just damage calc everything, that would make it too easy, which you evidently think already. But Slay the Spire showed me that having the damage calculation on screen just meant the player could better prepare. It took randomness out a little bit. And because the player could better prepare, you could also make things harder since they have more resources. So I think that was smart. And Slay the Spire came out while Abomi Nation was in development, so I didn't play it before when I initially started. And I think, I don't want to call it a regret, I guess, but one of the things that I would change about Abomi Nation if I were remaking it, which I kind of am, is I wouldn't feature an overworld. I only featured an overworld because, like, well, you gotta have one. That's the thing in between battles. That's what Pokemon does, right? Um, and so I would say, in reference to that review I just mentioned, if there is one thing that I didn't think about bringing, cutting mechanically, it was the overworld. I think the map style system that's coming to Monster Rifts makes a lot more sense. Um, Now, the thing you lose by cutting the overworld is that you can't walk around as your Abomis, and it's just fun to see. So that's why I added the hub world into Monster Rifts, so that you can still at least get the feeling of walking around as your team. I will also say another big inspiration that I usually mention that people wouldn't really think about is Viva Pinata. Viva Pinata is this great, like, cozy farming game where you attract pinatas to the garden. It's kind of a Monster Tamer in that sense, more creature collector. You don't really battle them.
Hmm.
But Viva Pinata, the gameplay loop of that is finding pinatas specific like criteria that'll bring them to the garden. So you plant carrots, and then a bunny will show up. Once you have the bunny, then you've attracted a fox to the garden, right? So the evolution conditions for Abomis, I thought that would be a great way to make Abomis each feel more unique and to make them feel more like you have to pay attention to them on your team. So you have, like I mentioned, your team levels up altogether. So you could hypothetically just have something in the back and level it up from the beginning of the game, never use it once, but then have this tank by the end game, right? So at least evolution conditions requiring you to do certain things with the Abomis means that you do have to use them a little bit.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention that until now, but I absolutely love the evolution requirements because they are unique for every single Abomi.
Yeah, and some of them work into the design and the lore of the Abomis, right? Like Ottle needs to be hit by lightning moves, which it is weak to as a water type, but then when it does, it evolves into a water lightning type that's inspired by lightning struck sand.
Ah, I didn't know that inspiration. We're getting the lore drops here.
Yeah, that's whenever it attacks, its poofy ears like burst out into spikes, and that was the inspiration for that. My wife designed Ottle and Axolotl, so shout out to her.
Oh, awesome. So I mentioned that I really love the original Abomi designs. And so I'm really curious about what goes into designing an Abomi. Do you have like sort of the rough image first, or like the type combination? You're like, I really want to make like a fire grass, or do you just think of a really hilarious pun and then build the Abomi around that?
So yeah, there are basically three approaches, and you just described all three.
Ooh.
So the first one, uh, I'd say probably a more common one, is that I get inspired by seeing some kind of obscure animal or like nature fact, and I'm able to base an Abomi around that. For example, when I first learned of the hell pig, which is like an Ice Age era pig, where the jaw like extends back into the pig's body, kind of, it's horrifying. Like it's got like a huge like crocodile jaw, but it doesn't extend out. It goes like into its body.
Wow.
And that was the inspiration for barbecue, barbecue. Um, and the other ways that I approach Abomi designs are typically like you said, if I need a type combo filled. So something like Walwat was born of needing an ice lightning type. And that was the first thing that came to mind. And Walwat ended up being one of my favorite designs. Um, And then, yeah, the last one is some of them are name first. I know Giraffadil was thought up because of the name.
Yeah.
Clamel is a name first design.
Got to rep for the Clamel crew.
Yeah, yeah, I got that one right eventually.
I really appreciate all of the puns in the name because I'm a language nerd. So
Mm.
I see the name and I'm like, yes, that is a good Abomi. Before I look at the type and the moves, I see something like Giraffadale, and I'm like, yes, I love this Abomi.
Yes, perfection. Sometimes they just fall into place, and you gotta love those. I had Jawbridge, I think is a great one. Um, and my wife came up with that one because I asked her like, what would you name this? I'm struggling to think of something, and she just spat it out, and I was like, that's sticking.
Yeah, I think Jawbridge was it was one of the bosses that I had in one of my runs, and I was like,
Mm.
this thing is awesome. I want it on my
Yeah.
team, and I've just had so many moments like that with Abomi Nation, and I feel like Abomi Nation does a really good job of that, where it shows the player something, and then you can get it. Whereas with Pokemon, it either felt kind of I don't know, you either have to wait too long or it's like right
Mm.
afterwards and it's like, oh, okay, well, there it is. Whereas Abomi Nation, you have that time to appreciate it, to fight it, and it might show up, it might not. You never know because it's all random.
Yeah.
And I like that.
It all has the same chance. It can either be there or not.
Exactly.
It's not going to be some like obscure method like Pokemon, like show up at 2 p.m. on a Friday under the moon.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff was around since Gen 2, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But, some people might think that it's a new thing to Pokemon, but no, we've been dealing with that since we were kids.
The classic 1% Johto encounter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Whooper's Adventure, when you were 12. How did you learn how to do that when you were 12?
Well, I brought it up once already. Newgrounds. Newgrounds was a great resource for creators.
Oh.
They hosted tons of Flash tutorials that were made in Flash. It was a genius concept. So you could click around, kind of like a PowerPoint presentation, and go to different things and see, like, okay, so this is how you make a button. Put this code, and it's like, oh, I get it. And then it'll show you this is how it'll apply. And then if they have like a full like platformer tutorial, it'll be like, and then it'll make something like this, and then you can play the platformer that code created. So it was a genius way to just like show like young programmers how their code is actually affecting things. And then like from then on, I just like learned, oh, if I need to know something, I can just Google it. I can just look it up, and then I know. And then if I forget, Google doesn't go away. You just that's the answer to how you program stuff. You just look it up.
Yeah, I must have missed those resources because I feel like if I had found those, my life could have taken a different trajectory.
Yeah. Well, they weren't exactly like posted prominently on the front page. They're not going to have the same appeal
True.
as like a big game or animated series.
Yeah,
But
so you sought those
they
out.
were yeah, they were in their own little category. I knew going in that I wanted to create stuff. It was movies at first before games, but then when I learned how easy it was, not how easy, but how approachable it was. Once I realized that I could do it, then I started messing around with that.
It's nice to have your old projects. Do you still have Whooper's Adventure?
I do. I have many old projects, like just random little things I made when I was 12 or when I was in high school, and some college little
That's
things
awesome.
I made.
Any chance you would be like sticking those anywhere? I guess you can't because Whooper's you do a sprite swap and then I'm sure somebody would like to buy it for $1 or something.
Whooper's Adventure is not making it to Steam.
Ah, darn. Figured it was worth
I'm
asking.
sorry to say.
Ah, that's too bad. Yeah. Okay.
You can still find it on Newgrounds. It's still playable.
Ooh. Is it attached to your to Orange Pylon Games?
I guess. Maybe it shouldn't be. But it's my old Newgrounds account that I changed to be Orange Pylon Games once I started making Abomi Nation.
I know, and the community knows that Abomi Nation was made in Game Maker, and there were some limitations around that. But
Yes.
how did you go about choosing Game Maker for Abomi Nation?
I chose Game Maker because Humble Bundle was offering a bundle where you could get Game Maker for $1. You could get a license for a professional game engine for $1. I bought like 10 copies just in case. I gave some to my friends. And then I started messing around with it. And the first thing I made, I was like, I could probably develop this into like an RPG. The original file for Abomi Nation was RPG test dot GameMaker file, whatever the extension is. And then it eventually just like ballooned and ballooned. I think the thing that clicked for me was I had never programmed something where I could use a controller to move a character before, and something about that just made it feel like so much more legitimate. And I'm like, oh, this is a real engine. Like I could put something on Steam with this. Um, so, I've said a lot of stuff about GameMaker over the years. Let it be known, it is a good engine, especially for beginners. And if they didn't offer that deal, GameMaker for $1, I don't think I even would have thought about releasing a commercial game at that stage. Um, so I do owe them a lot. But yes,
Yeah.
there were some scope issues with GameMaker. It's great for beginners, and some big success stories from GameMaker are Undertale, Rivals of Aether, Forager. But you'll notice about all these games is that they have like insanely small pixel art sprites. Uh, so when you're trying to load objects, like the vector-based ones in Abomi Nation, uh, it doesn't scale as well. We'll say that.
Mm.
But I've now moved over to Godot to work on monster riffs, and Godot has been like a complete godsend. Like, and able to be able to set up the mods the way I did it wasn't only possible in Godot, but I did actually start development for like a week or two in Unity
Hmm.
to try things out. But just the headache of trying to load files in as mods, like I think when Unity was made, probably they weren't thinking that devs would actively work mods into the game like as a feature. Um, but Godot was like, I don't care. It's a lot easier working in Godot, and
Yeah,
it's treated me well.
that's awesome.
Yes, thank you, Game Maker. I love you.
And because of Abomi Nation, I am also very appreciative of Game Maker. So good vibes all around.
But Game Maker doesn't have a funny little mascot that can cross over and be a character in Monster Riffs. So
Yeah.
that's where Godot wins out, really. It has a little robot guy. Game Maker just has like a square looking G. That's no fun.
Oh, someone's going to make that into an Abomi eventually.
It could be an item.
There you go. And speaking of icons, are we going to see the famous pylon become an Abomi? Or is that secret?
I mean, you got Traffic Crab, man. What more do you want?
Oh,
Well, Traffic Crab from Cassette Beasts.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't look at the full list.
Yeah, I showed up to Abomination 1 without any kind of pylon monster, and then a different Monster Tamer came out where their main mascot was an orange pylon crab. And
Oh.
I'm just sitting here like, what am I doing?
Yeah. All right. So we're talking a little bit about monster rifts, but in Abomi Nation, you've got some crossovers. When did you first get the idea to have crossovers in Abomi Nation?
So it's always something that I've wanted to do. For Abomi 1, I didn't really consider it at first because I was just like, who would want to cross over with me? I haven't done anything,
Mm-hmm.
and I have nothing to show off yet. But I always liked the idea of stuff like a ROM hack that just came out, like Super Mario Mon, where the Pokemon in that game are replaced with Mario enemies. I love the idea of just like, excuse me, of recontextualizing other enemies and other creatures from different games as Pokemon. And I'm like, that has so much potential. And I always envisioned um, essentially having like a Muggin roster or Mugen or however people
Oh,
want to
yeah.
pronounce
Yeah.
it. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, the fighting game
where
one.
people can make their own characters. I always envisioned that, but for uh, a Monster Tamer. I think there's so much potential in that, and that's why I'm now making it with the Monster Riffs. I always kept it in the back of my mind for a Abomi 1 that, I'd like to do mod support, I like to whatever, but then with Game Maker it wasn't scalable, and the art style wasn't friendly to other people matching it. So anyway, this is all to say that I did think once I signed on with the game, the first game's previous publisher, Dongan, I did think like maybe it would be a good opportunity to cross over with Bug Fables since I now have a line to contact them directly. And funnily enough, while I was talking with my publisher during development of the first game, they pitched that idea to me as well. So I do want to give them credit. They sent me that independently, but I was already thinking it, and I said no.
Really?
I said I didn't want to do it. because I wanted to come out just as me first. I wanted it to be Abomi Nation, first 100
Ah.
Abomis. I wanted to see how I did without being attached to any other game. And it released. It
Ah.
reviewed well. It reviewed pretty good. And then eventually, while I was looking at DLC updates, I was like, you know what? Now maybe now's the time. So I reached out to my publisher, said, "Can you put me in touch with Bug Fables?" I started talking to Gino, the one of the lead developers of Bug Fables, and the rest is history. I just had so much fun working with Gino to get all the Bug Fables enemies into or not into Monster Rifts, into Abomination One. Uh, that I just like I've been chasing that high ever since. I've just been reaching out to so many other other crossover partners, and it's been going great.
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, the Bug Fables crossover is the number one reason why I found my way into Abomi Nation. And, I really like seeing all the Bug Fables Abomis, but my favorite Abomis are all of the original ones. And I'm not
Yeah.
just saying that to be nice. Like, legitimately, when I'm like, yes, these are the Bug Fables ones, and we got the other crossover ones, and it's amazing that they're here. But the original Abomis, there's just a lot of charm to them, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks. I originally considered like it's nice to have a mix of both. I think.
Yes.
And I originally considered for Monster Rifts to just call the game Monster Rifts and not have it be an Abomination game. And Abomination would essentially
Ah.
be like another franchise that just gets 10 characters or whatever. But
Mm.
then I thought about it and I'm like, well, I have this whole world that makes sense for it, and I'd be throwing away like 200 designs at that point for no reason other than just not have Abomination on it, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to attach it like maybe it's like a fresh start. But with video games, I think sequels often get fresh starts anyway.
True.
I
Yeah.
mean, Helldivers 2 came out last year. Have you heard of Helldivers 1? Not really. Maybe. Um, there are a lot of, examples like that where the sequel can just stand on its own.
Right. Yeah. So after Bug Fables, you got I don't know the order, but there's Disc Creatures
Yes.
and oh man, I'm forgetting them. I should know them. With
Well,
it.
that's it for Abomination 1.
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, I did remember all of them.
Yeah.
So how did the Disc Creatures crossover go?
Same kind of story. So they also were published by Dongen, and I was always open to do other crossovers that weren't with the same publisher. But I figured, like, while I'm still working on Abomination 1 and not 2, I can have my publisher reach out to them. Disc Creatures is also a Japanese game, so I figured there might be, like, a bit of a barrier to me reaching out. And we did have a translator initially, but the developer of Disc Creatures does speak English, so I've been able to talk with him for Monster Rifts is fine. But I figured as long as I was with my publisher, I knew I wanted to do Monster Rifts at that point by the time I was working on the Disc Creatures DLC. So I'm like, I'll get Disc Creatures now while it'll be easier, and I'll put it in Abomination 1 too. Might as well.
Yeah, awesome. Did you get to a point with Abomination where you decided, okay, I just need to sort of start over from scratch?
Yeah, and then once I decided that mod support was going to be like a big selling point, like I recognized the potential for mod support, and people were asking for it for Abomination 1. Because it would be a great feature, but Abomination 1 didn't have like the infrastructure or the scalability or the player base, frankly, to to incorporate mod support to make that worth doing. So I thought, okay, I'm going to design the game around mod support this time, and since you'll be able to fight with anything, and you'll have all these clashing styles and different design concepts, might as well just open up that crossover door, make it huge, focus on that as well. Um, and so I think with those two like big pillars, uh, and the opportunity to change some things that I would like the overworld for Abomination One and just give it a tighter structure. At that point, I was still working on Abomi One DLC at the time that I knew I wanted to do it. So there was
Hmm.
like a brief period where I was working on both. But yeah, so it was around the end of Abomi One's life cycle that I decided, okay, I'm going to do a sequel.
Yeah, wow. So you have been thinking about Monster Rips for a while then.
Yeah, it was only revealed last year, just barely not a year ago. But it was in development for 2 years before that.
Wow. Yeah. And then the Kickstarter is only just like now-ish.
Yeah, and there's still more than a year to go.
Still some wait. Yep.
It takes a long time when you're working by yourself.
I can only imagine. Yeah. So, Monster Rifts, is your plan just to get as many crossovers as possible?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, I love like a lot of indie games, and there's still so many people I want to work with. And it doesn't take me too long to feature a guest character compared to doing something like if I were Framemakers, for example, doing a platform fighter. Making a character in that is so intricate. It takes like months, if not years.
Yeah.
But I can make some Abomi animations in just a couple days.
Mm. And do you use a Monster Rift's built-in Abomi creator?
Yes, all the Abomis in the game are made using the creator.
Wow.
Because it streamlines my workflow. It's perfect.
That's really cool.
I should have like there's a case to be made. I think bigger studios do this. As a solo dev, I never really thought about it, but studios do sometimes make software just for them. To put in new content. And I was like, oh my god, I should have been doing this the whole time.
It's not often though that they will give it to the players.
Yeah, that's where I'm cool.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a selling point for a lot of people. It's one thing to play a monster tamer, and then there's a whole bunch of monsters to tame. But this one, I don't know. Is it the first that you know of where people can where players have the same tool that the developer uses to make the creatures?
The same as the developer, maybe, because there are some like other games support modding, like Cassette Beast supports modding, and there's this. There's one game on GameCube, I can't remember its name, but players can kind of make their own monsters, kind of like in a Spore kind of way.
Oh.
So it's not exactly a monster tamer, but it's often like I've seen it brought up. But yeah, same tool as developer, maybe.
That's awesome, and it's also reassuring.
I mean, I have access to a little bit more than the players in that I can edit the actual structure of the game to support whatever idea I want. But
it's usual when there's some sort of creator, it feels like there are things that are locked off, and it's like, hey, I can see that in the real game they're doing all these kinds of things that I can't do with the creator. But it's sounding like, I mean, it's not going to be one for one because you have access to the the code base and everything. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm just kind of imagining how much power there will be handed to the players, and that's exciting.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, that's mostly why I made it, because I want that. I want to have a giant Muggin-style roster of a bunch of crazy stuff that people have come up with. Like, it sounds fun to be able to play Abomi Nation with Abomis that I am not familiar with, that I didn't make. I get to experience it as a player.
Yeah. Oh, how often do you play Abomi Nation?
The first game, not so much nowadays, because I'm testing Monster Rifts most days.
Yeah.
The last time I did like a full run in Abomi Nation has probably been a couple years ago at this point. I mean, I open it up now sometimes to mostly for like a bug testing or for referencing. I'm not like fully just playing a run. Monster Rifts is not at a point where you can play a full run yet, but I'm anxious to get it to that point so I can start playing through it a whole bunch and then taking all the notes on all the balance and stuff like that.
Is there any crossover or any hints or anything that you would like to drop in this interview?
Sure, I'll give you a taste.
Ooh.
It'll be completely useless for the sake of the video. Tomorrow's crossover is a new game. It is called Frog Gun. It is a platformer where you have a gun that's a frog. It's it's a very fun little game, and the enemies from Frog Gun are coming over. So there, exclusive sneak peek for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
If you can get this video edited and out by tomorrow, then it'll be useful.
Unfortunately, it won't be useful to the audience, but I do appreciate that, and that sounds awesome. Yes, I haven't heard of this game.
You know before anyone besides
that's amazing.
But there's just so many things. Like, these are all just games that I like. A lot of people thought that it did have to be a Monster Tamer, because when I announced in the Monster Taming Direct, the big like tentpole crossovers that I put in the trailer were Koromon and Monster Sanctuary first and
Yeah.
foremost, because I knew my audience and who I was
Mm-hmm.
announcing to. But then then I revealed also there was like 2D and Top D and Super Sammy Roll and platformers like that. So and Bug Fables wasn't a Monster Tamer either.
Yeah,
So it never had
JRPG
to
though.
be. Yeah, so it's close enough. It's adjacent. But then stuff like 2D and Top D is completely out of left field.
Yeah.
And then in the Kickstarter trailer, I show off Peglin, Slap City, and Brotato, and it's like those are all completely different games, and all completely different from monster taming. So it's so cool to see, so cool to work with these people. By the way, like I've loved their games for so long, and to just see their characters and their enemies, contextualized as monsters in a monster taming game. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, and for me, it's also kind of really whatever. I'll say it anyways. What would like Ronald McDonald or Chicken McNugget look like as in a Monster Tamer? It's like it's not a Monster Tamer.
Ronald McDonald's going to be in there. Every modded game has. I'm awaiting. I'll know I've made it once Ronald McDonald becomes an Abomi.
Yeah, that's true. And like that's probably one of the first things I found in Muggin or Mugen was like Ronald McDonald versus Colonel Sanders or something like that.
The classic.
Yep. What are the benefits of making monster rifts in Godot? Like, what are some things that you could do now that you couldn't in Game Maker?
Well, in Game Maker, because of the way things were loaded in, areas tended to lag a lot, especially if there were a lot of Abomis in the area.
Yeah.
And as I've shown off a few times in the promotional videos for monster rifts, I'm able to populate an entire island with an Abomi on like every square inch. Right? I can load. I haven't actually done the stress test to figure out how many Abomis I can load before my laptop starts to lag. But on my personal laptop, it will struggle to run Abomi Nation in bigger areas. Most areas are fine, but then it'll dip a little bit in frames in big towns. But I have to spawn hundreds of Abomis before anything starts to happen in Godot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big advantage. A lot of people couldn't play Abomi Nation just because their computers weren't good enough to run it, and even on the lowest graphic settings, it was more of a slog to play through. But with Monster Rifts, it should run on virtually anything.
Nice.
I'm saying that now, halfway through development. Hopefully, something doesn't come up that just tanks it. But it seems good so far.
Yeah. So, possibly controversial question. There is a big shift in the art style from Abomi Nation 1 to Monster Rifts. Some people might say that going from vector art to pixel art is a downgrade. It's not something that I would say. I love, pixel graphics. I love the original Game Boy sprites and everything. So it's not me. But what influenced your decision to make this art style change?
So focusing on mod support was the number one reason, and also, and also, in the first game, a big reason for the performance dips were the vector sprites. So they were way more of a headache than they were worth, and a lot of people thought that it made Abomi Nation look like a Flash game, possibly because it was animated in Flash. So being able to take those same animations, convert them down to pixel art, I personally think they look a lot more appealing. I'm really happy with my designs as they are in pixel art. The response from the general public in terms of the art style, even just in terms of what I've shown off for Monster Rift so far, no one's even played it yet, but a lot more people have come out to say oh, I love this art style, I'm definitely going to check this out.
Good.
Whereas not many people said that about Abomi Nation 1.
Really?
So there's definitely been when tested out in the general public, I think maybe some fans of Abomi Nation 1 would have trouble adjusting, and I get that. I would say, and I'm not saying it's impossible to the first games look more, but I would say it probably comes more from not wanting things to change.
Yeah.
I always bring up the example of Super Auto Pets. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that game, but they used to be their characters used to just be actual emojis, so it'd be like a pig and a fish emoji. But eventually the game got really big. They got an art budget, and they're like, okay, we're going to replace these sprites with actual, a unified art style. And they look way better. Like, objectively. If you've never seen the game before, you're going to look at like this nice little fish that they made versus the fish emoji. And obviously you would pick that. But there was a big outcry, even though there was an option to keep the emojis in. There's a big outcry like, oh, you've ruined my fish emoji. And I want to ask all these people, if the game came out today and it started with this new fish, and they said, we're going to update the graphics and we're going to put a fish emoji in its place, nobody would think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think if Abomi Nation started with these pixel graphics and people got used to the Abomis as they looked in this style, and then I said, okay, for the new game, I'm doing vector art and it's going to look like Abomi Nation 1, I don't think as many people would be clinging.
Then you might get me upset. Oh no, we're losing the pixel graphics. I love the old school stuff.
Yeah, I'd be upset too.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, the main reason, regardless of people's personal preference, it is way easier for a mod to match the pixel art style than a vector. Like, I'm not going to expect everybody to have Adobe Animate and pay $8 million a month to use the Adobe suite.
Yeah. So basically, right now, someone can make an Abomi in Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, I would say the only thing about Paint is I'm not sure if it can export with a transparent background.
It cannot.
Maybe new versions can.
So if you wanted it to be like a square or a rectangle.
Then, yes, yeah. You can make
okay.
SpongeBob.
Yeah.
You can make Super Meat Boy and SpongeBob. And
yeah, there you go. But from that point, you just need to import your whatever image to something that has support for transparent layers, and I like GIMP or something like that is free. But yeah, I mean, that just sounds super.
Oh yeah, there are free alternatives. Yeah.
Super approachable, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. I also designed the mod creation tool to not require any coding experience. So
beautiful.
You just go in and you plug your numbers in, like, okay, I want it to have this much text, this much whatever, I want it to be this type, and it'll just spit the file out for you and be like, here, you're done. You can put it on the workshop.
That's amazing.
I just wanted to not have any like barriers of entry.
Yeah.
To trying to create stuff.
And that's going to be huge for the player base. It's supportive for a casual audience. They don't need to know all of this stuff. They just need to know kind of like what the stats do. As long as they understand Abomi Nation, or even Pokemon, they could be brand new to Abomi Nation. They understand the Pokemon stats. They're going to be able to come in and create their own Abomi. No problem.
Yeah, just anyone, if you have an idea and you have the ability to make sprites, then yeah, you can bring them in.
That's awesome.
Welcome to the family.
We touched on it before, but what are some of the kinds of things that you're excited about seeing that the community will come up with? Ronald McDonald aside.
Yeah. Legally, I'm only excited for original designs to come out of this. Hopefully nobody uses it for any other purpose.
Oh, nobody would think of that.
No. I am excited. Genuinely, it is what I'm most excited for, to see people's like original creations, because they can design it around the mechanics of Abomi Nation, and really just show off their creativity and their artistic skill as well. And also just because I have no idea what's going to come out of that.
You've got some idea. I mean, I've been coming up with a whole bunch of ideas, and the community, they've got all kinds of things that they want to make. The Abomi Nation community is really excited about the creator.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
So speaking of the community, it's pretty bustling, isn't it?
Nowadays, yeah, especially with the Kickstarter going on, there's lots to talk about. No, I'm super appreciative of my Discord. I mean, especially during Abomi Nation 1, before the Bug Fables crossover, and before it, didn't really take off like it's some huge hit, but before I had built an audience for myself, like having people talking in the Discord every day, it made me feel as a developer like, your work had made an impact. Clearly, here's like tangible, like somebody is playing it right now and they're talking about their run. somebody is debating a tier list off of some monster that you made 2 years ago and you can't even remember the stats of. Like that. I genuinely, and I said this before in like an anniversary post or something, I don't think I would have made Monster Riffs if I didn't start the Discord for Abomi Nation. Because if I was just going off of my followers on other social media, which I'm also very appreciative for, of course, but you don't get that direct like contacts like you do on Discord, where people are sharing like every like detail about their run, or talking about, you know, all the design decisions you made. And so you get to like really like get into it on Discord, and that's what I love. And I love being like a part of the Discord community. I know like not a lot of devs do that, and they kind of just let it like moderate itself. But I love being in there every day and seeing what everyone's saying.
Is there anything that really surprised you about the community, or anything that happened in the community? Any special moments?
Yeah, I mean, tons. Like I said, I mean, just the fact that it's active all the time is really impressive to me. I mean, I think probably my favorite thing the community's ever done. Oh, besides all the fan art, I'll just throw that out there. I love when I get fan art. I save it all in a giant folder so I can look over it later, so it never gets lost. But I think my favorite thing the community's done is whenever I revealed Monster Riffs, they held a watch party in the Discord, and they knew that I couldn't be there to see their reactions, so they recorded their reactions and then uploaded it privately to YouTube for me to hear them all scream. And that was really nice. They all pogged out like it was a Nintendo Direct or something. And it was especially nice because they didn't know that I was announcing Monster Riffs, so that it was going to be a sequel or anything. They just tuned in to see what I was announcing. And over the last year, I've gone back to that video decently often. I like it a lot. And they recorded a new one for the Kickstarter trailer as well. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's really special. How do you envision the community evolving with the introduction of Monster Rifts?
I think a lot of people are going to come to the Discord to start sharing their custom monsters and even just workshopping like on the way to it being made, right? Like asking for advice on how to set it up the way they want, getting feedback before they release it. I think that's going to be a whole new aspect to the community that doesn't exist in Abomi Nation 1, and I think that's going to be cool.
So, Carl, if you could go back in time and give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
Don't use Game Maker. No, I got bigger problems than that. I suppose, I don't know, things kind of worked out. I guess it would just be like specific programming advice, like maybe look into this a little bit more before you go ahead and make that system, because you can save yourself a lot of hours. Yeah, I don't know. There are obviously like things about Abomi Nation 1 that I want to change now, but had it not all played out the way it did, I don't know if I'd be doing what I'm doing right now. So it's hard to say. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, awesome. When you think about your journey with Abomi Nation, what are you most proud of?
I guess there's the easy answer, which is just that I got a game on Steam and Switch and Xbox, you know, at all. The fact that I did it, I followed through, and it released. But genuinely, I think I'm most proud of like right now. Like I feel like the Kickstarter is going extremely well. I feel like the new trailer really like hit with a lot of people, and I'm getting a lot of attention that I haven't otherwise gotten working on Abomi Nation 1. And I feel like Monster Riffs is going to hit the expectations I want for it, and I'm just super happy with how things are going. So yeah, really proud of. I think I'm at my best as a developer right now. We'll see
That's awesome.
How that ages.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what the future holds, but I am liking the trajectory that I'm seeing. It's looking promising that Monster Rifts is really going to happen. I mean, you got the funding from the Kickstarter in less than a week, was it?
Yeah, just under a week.
Wow. Were you expecting that?
No, I was just hoping to make it by the end.
Yeah.
I prepped the stretch goals, obviously, because you never know what's going to happen, but I didn't expect to break them out 1 week in. And now it's looking like we're going to hit our first stretch goal of localization. Maybe we'll have hit it by the time the video comes out, but we're
most likely
18.8 thousand out of 20,000 Canadian dollars to hit it, so we're pretty well on the way.
Yeah,
and that also surprises me.
I gotta get on that.
Yeah, you'll get us to localization. I'll make it French for you. Le Canadien.
Ah oui, mais mon français c'est très mal. Carl, thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure. I really appreciate the time that you took to join me for this interview.
Hey, yeah, of course. No, it's great to be here. It's nice to finally talk to you face to face, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.